Welcome to my channel. My name is Shatakshi and I am here to discuss a very interesting topic with all of you today. How to invest in your 20s. So it's a very important topic primarily because I have had challenges. I've been not so very disciplined managing my money, and I wanted to be extremely candid with you as I share my mistakes and I share my best practices as well. So this entire video is going to be divided into two parts: the why, the motivation, and how to actually bring out the discipline of entirely how to invest in your 20s. And second is the how part of it. Now that you are disciplined, now that you're motivated, how should you go about it? So let's start with the motivation and the discipline part of it. So to start with, when I started my career when I was 21, I've been extremely guilty of getting inspired by my parents and putting some share of my money in my FDs. Yes, you heard that right. I am talking about FDs. I would put some money in it. I would break them because of my GMAT expenses, preparation expenses, so on and so forth. But I largely did not manage my money well. And in fact, at times I really wonder, there is so much money that I earned before my business school. I wonder where all that money has gone into. So clearly I was not really good at it. So that's point number one. But you may be thinking that, Shatakshi, if you're not good at it, how can you actually share your best practices? So I learned from my mistake. When I entered business school, when I had a debt on my head at the same time, I had limited amount of earnings in my bank with which I was supposed to actually manage my living, not just in India, but when I went for an exchange semester in Boston, which is really expensive city to live in, I really realized the true value of money. And I was always very sure when I'm going to come out of this business school, when I earn, I'm going to be extremely disciplined about how I manage my money. So for example, my first job after business school was Boston Consulting Group. I definitely managed my money really very well. So that's my personal motivation. Secondly, there are macroeconomic motivation as well. So many people are actually talking about investing and so many young professionals hear about investing. But what I have realized is many young professionals are not investing as diligently as they should. Let me actually share an economic reason why you should be very disciplined about it. The main reason has actually a lot to do with inflation. If you're not aware with the concept of inflation, inflation is the rising cost of goods and services. So hypothetically imagine that your stipend per month is $10, and hypothetically imagine that you buy a packet of chips every month, which also costs you $10. So far so good, you like that packet of chips and you have been able to afford it. But suddenly there is inflation, right? Inflation takes place. There is a cost of rising goods and services. There are reasons behind it. But just to oversimplify and help you understand the concept of inflation, suddenly there is 7% inflation. And now that packet of chips cost you $17 and your stipend remains $10. What that means is suddenly the basic necessities such as cereal, your food, your vegetables, milk, onion, etc., you're not able to afford them anymore. With the primary reason because there is inflation and your stipend, the growth on that stipend is not able to match that inflation. And that's primarily why your stipend, your investment, anything what you do has to make sure bare minimum it beats the inflation. So that's the second motivation that I wanted to share with you. So not just my personal journey, there are legit economics reason because of which you should be actually making sure that you invest very diligently in your 20s. The third thing is about the discipline within the entire larger bracket of why. Remember I said that there are two parts to this video. The first one is the why and the second one is the what. So there's this golden rule where young professionals should actually be investing at least 30% of their earnings. Now, I know that a lot of you may think that, Shatakshi, we know that, but we have still not been able to do it. I will actually share a hack in the how part of it through which you can definitely be able to become more disciplined about it. So one more thing, today I do not just invest 30% of my earnings. I invest almost around 70 to 80%. What that means is I am not actually increasing my lifestyle. I'm not increasing my expenses based on my increased earnings, right? I'm keeping my expenses bare minimum, whatever my necessities are, and then whatever is left over, I keep on investing them. Not that I don't enjoy my life, I definitely have a very healthy, calm life, but I always want to make sure that I'm not over investing on my expenses just because my earnings are increasing with age and with time and with experiences, of course. So that's the entire discipline motivation, and my personal journey, how I actually realized the true value of money. Now, when we talk about the how, right, there are three levers that I want to talk about when it comes to how you should invest in your 20s. The first one, of course, is money, right? The second one is time. Not a lot of people talk about investing in time. Frankly, time is also money. So if you invest your time correctly, you can actually convert that into future prospective money, right? The third one is a bonus lever that I'm going to be sharing towards the end. So stay tuned if you would like to know about that third lever. Where else should you be investing in your 20s? Let's start with money first. So first and foremost, let's talk about the compounding effect of money. Many people do not intuitively understand the compounding effect of money because it's literally like a graph of e to the power x, right? Most of the things that happen around us, they are mostly a linear curve. They are mostly growing at y equals to 2 plus 3x, right? That's a linear curve. However, compounding takes place when you invest in stock markets. Now, actually, let me give an example. So for example, simple numbers, 2 to the power 1 is 2, 2 to the power 2 is 4, 2 to the power 3, 2 to the power 4, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc. Right? That's how actually compounding works. Now, let's say hypothetically, I give you $1,000, right? Or probably you have $1,000 to invest. And you invest in an asset which is growing at a rate of 200%. So it doubles every year. And if you stay with that asset for 20 years, you can actually earn $1 billion. Just because of the power of compounding, right? 2 to the power 1, 2, 2 to the power 2, 4, etc. So every year it is not just doubling, it is compounding exponentially, even though the rate of growth is 200%. That's the power of compounding. And that's why if you invest early in your 20s, that then entire asset that you create is going to be very powerful, making sure that you beat the inflation. So that's the point number one that I wanted to convey. Now you can imagine, hey Shatakshi, we understand that, but how should we actually go about investing? I have 4 large pillars within the money lever that I would want to talk about. The first one is actually around large caps. You may think that, Shatakshi, this is a jargon, large cap, mid cap, small cap. I'm not aware about what a cap is. Cap is actually an acronym for market capitalization. Market capitalization, if we were to get technical-ish, number of shares into the price of share. So it's basically what is the valuation of that company based on the market, right? Now the big firms such as ITC, TCS, Infosys, etc., they're all large market capitalization firm. And I would advise you that you, for example, IT stocks, right, they're actually growing because of the entire pandemic. So I would say that's one of the reasons. There are multiple other reasons. So you can actually look at TCS, you can look at Infosys, you can look at Wipro, etc. But I would highly advise within the large cap bucket, you can actually diversify. For example, HUL, P&G, these are the FMCG, consumer moving goods, right? That's another industry. Now you may question, Shatakshi, how should we end up selecting the stocks? You should always learn the science behind things rather than just learn which stocks to pick, right? Just trying to collect information, because once you understand the science, you can become really independent. The bare minimum simple science, if I were to oversimplify the process, is go on Google, write ITC stock, see the percentage growth at which they have increased year on year in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, in the last 1 year. And there is basically something called momentum growth. Stocks that have actually grown at X percentage will continue to grow at that same percentage in future as well. I heavily believe, I come from the same school of thought as Warren Buffett, which is the value-based investing. I read his book, which is basically Tap Dancing to Work. So a lot of my investing strategies are actually inspired from value-based investing. Don't invest somewhere where there is a trend, just invest somewhere where there is actually true value. So timing and pricing are extremely very important. Now, that's the first point, which is around large cap. Moving on to the second point within the money lever, which is about mutual fund. I'm aware, and many of you may be aware, that mutual funds have a commission on it. But guess what? We're actually talking about investing in your 20s. I do not want you guys to play very risky with your money, which is really hard earned. Probably part of that money could be your parents' hard earned. Do not try to play very risky, especially when you are actually entering into the market. Mutual funds at least will make sure, even with the net commission, that you beat the inflation, right? Remember, I go back to the concept of why do you even need to invest your money? You want to make sure that at least bare minimum, when you are starting to invest, you beat the market. There are a couple of mutual funds. I got a really fantastic growth on the Axis Bank Mid Cap Small Cap Mutual Fund. Please do not just take my word. These are the funds in which I invested almost 2 years ago. Timing is very important in the market. You always try to invest when the market is at a low so that you get a potential high when the market goes up, right? I started investing somewhere around 2018, early 2019, when the market crashed somewhere around March, when the first lockdown was announced. I was lucky enough to have certain amount of funds in my bank to start pouring into the stock market. So that's the second point on mutual funds. The third point is PPF, which is kind of a synonym to your retirement fund. I recently made a video how I retired at an early age of 30, and I know PPF is not cool. I am very well aware that PPF is not sexy, but I'm trying to make sure that your entire portfolio, when you are just starting to build your career, when you're just starting to earn, looks very sustainable and very healthy. There can be trends of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and I'm myself invested in that, but there are certain research that I've done, and there is certain experience that I have in the market based on which I've been able to do so. But if you are independently investing in the stock market, I want you to please take your money very seriously rather than you burn your hands. Which brings me to my fourth point around how to invest in your 20s. It's about health insurance. So I became really very lucky as well as very unlucky when I started to invest with the point of view of health insurance. Unlucky because I did not start early on, somewhere around 21, 22. Very lucky because I actually purchased my health insurance, term and health both at an age of 29. Now, how does that really help? Your premium decreases. What is premium? The amount of money that you pay every year, right? To safeguard in the event of untimely demise, or when unfortunately if you have to be admitted to a hospital. So my premium would have decreased substantially if I were to actually invest early in my career. So if you're still watching this video, I would highly advise that you get a health insurance, a good health insurance, so that in the case of unfortunate events, you're actually very robustly backed up. I'm very well aware that insurance as a concept is not intuitive. I told my parents about it and they were like, what? You really pay someone else that money and there is no guarantee of that money coming back? I know, I get that, and a lot of people struggle with that challenge. But I would still, if you're actually keen on learning about the economics of health insurance, I'm happy to make a video on it. Feel free to put it in the comments. If there's substantial comments, substantial proof of concept, I'm happy to actually make a separate video on that. That brings me to the end of the money lever, how to invest in your 20s. I would say if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Be sure to subscribe because I am going to be putting out content on a daily basis on career advancement, personal finance, and productivity. That brings me to my second point, which is around time. There are 3 things that I would want to actually talk about how to invest your time in your 20s. As a young child, I've always been very curious. I really don't know where do I get that from, but I've always asked questions around why do planets move the way they move, or why does the sun shine, or what would happen with the galaxy would end, so on and so forth. How does a YouTube channel work? How does the entire, I would say, Tesla company work? How do you privatize an entire space sector? So why and how, right? But that has allowed me to be extremely very learned, right? I have mostly had answers for many of the questions that many people don't know, from the point of view of interviews, from the point of view of building my career and getting promoted and getting new opportunities. In fact, at Global Governance Initiative, of which I'm a co-founder, we run an alternative MBA from the point of view of social impact. So you learn economics, you learn management consulting, you learn public policy, you learn product management, so on and so forth, with especially the direct industry leaders. So if you would be interested, feel free to apply to Global Governance Initiative. And at the same time, there are multiple other alternatives out there, but sharing at least, we have our in-house Global Governance Initiative where we upskill people. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is about working with inspirational leader, getting the time, investing your time to work with inspirational leaders. At the age of 24, I had 2 options, career options: work with a management consulting firm. I had an offer and they were paying me a bomb, or work with actually Government of India as an advisor, and they were paying me decent enough to have a decent life. However, I of course chose Government of India to work as an advisor, but at the same time, I got an opportunity to work directly with the former chairman of McKinsey and Company. It's the most pivotal and the transformative experience I've ever had. I got my learning communication skills. I got to learn how to deal stressful situation. I actually picked up my leadership style, being inspired by working very closely with him. So if in your 20s you get an opportunity, even at the expense of little less money, to work with transformative leaders, I would highly advise that you invest your time accordingly. Last point, in your 20s, to invest your time in your 20s will be around definitely peer network. I've been really blessed to work with really sharp, inspirational, motivating people. So for example, when I actually moved from Groupon India to Government of India, not that I'm saying that my peers before were not inspirational, they were really homogenous. They came from similar kind of backgrounds, they came from similar kind of ambitions, and they all wanted to do same kind of things. However, when I moved to Government of India, there was an ex-Deutsche Bank banker who actually left his high-paying job to work for Government of India. There was a McKinsey and Company business analyst who wanted to work for Government of India. After surrounding myself with these really competitive, aspirational people, I realized I actually became more aspirational, more competitive. And that is one of the key things that I would actually focus on if I were you to invest in my 20s, right? Find time to actually surround yourself with really competitive people. And that's why actually at Global Governance Initiative, we have such high bar on admissions, primarily because we want to create an extraordinary bunch of folks, not just based on which school they come from, but based on what kind of thinking do they have, what kind of dreams do they have, so that they eventually actually learn and feed of each other. So that's the end of the second lever, which is how to invest your time in your 20s. Which brings me to my bonus and lesson, which is around how to actually find time to invest in relationship in your 20s. It's a topic that many people frankly don't talk about, but it's the most important topic. I've been guilty of actually not finding time for my parents in my early 20s. I was this young girl who had plenty of ambitions, who wanted to travel the world. I think in my quest of being very ambitious, in my quest of traveling the world, being curious, being exploratory in nature, I kind of feel that I kind of left my parents behind. And when the pandemic hit, when I was living with them, when I was working with BCG, I was managing my own startup, I realized that how much they really missed me. Probably they don't talk about it, are not verbal about it enough, but they really longed for my attention and my time. I've done that mistake. Trust me, parents are the only beings on this planet who will care about your benefit more than anyone else. So that's number one point within relationship, and that brings me almost to my last point within relationships lever. You should definitely invest in finding a right partner. By right partner, I mean someone who can bring out the best in you in terms of your motivation, in terms of your inspiration, in terms of your true character, in terms of your true value system. I've been really blessed to find someone. I dated for 6 years and then we tied the knot. We are very different and complementary in nature, in the sense of I'm extremely left-brained, he's extremely right-brained, and we always make sure that we both are growing together and we make sure that we are always pushing the boundaries. I know this is one point on which you may be thinking, Shatakshi, we don't know how to find the best partner. But what I'm trying to say is, please do not settle with the wrong one, or please do not settle with a mediocre one. Please make sure whatever your level of personal and professional growth is, he or she actually makes sure that you are always overachieving, always striving for the best. That's all I had to share in this video of how to invest in your 20s. I hope you liked it. If there is any double click or a deep dive within any of these topics that you would want me to, please share in the comments. I'm happy to then make a new video around it. And that's it. Take care, stay safe. Bye.